All right, I want to tell you a story. And it's really a story about failure. It's a story that proves, it's just never too late to go after a dream. And it all starts with a guy you probably think you know, Colonel Sanders. Let's dive in. So let me ask you something. Do you ever get that feeling that it's just too late to start something new? You know, that nagging thought, have I missed my chance? Or is that dream I had just gone? Well, we all feel that way sometimes. And the story we're getting into today, it's a pretty incredible answer to that exact question. 65. Think about that number. That's the age most people are winding down, right? Planning their retirement? Well, at 65 years old, Harlan Sanders looked at his life and he felt like a complete, total failure. After decades and decades of hard work, he felt like he had almost nothing to show for it. And this is what really pushed him to the brink. His very first Social Security check came in the mail, and it was for $105. That was it. $105. Faced with that reality, he was just hit with this overwhelming sense of despair. He was at his absolute lowest point. But even in that darkest moment, something inside him shifted. Because what felt like the absolute end was actually the starting line for one of the most incredible, most famous entrepreneurial stories in history.
Okay, so to really get why he felt so defeated at 65, we kind of have to rewind the clock. See, this wasn't his first time dealing with failure, not by a long shot. In fact, his entire life up to that point was just one relentless setback after another.
I mean, look at this. His dad died when he was just a kid, so he had to drop out of school. He spent his young adult life just bouncing from job to job, a blacksmith, an insurance salesman, a train driver, you name it. He finally found a little bit of stability when he opened a small diner at his gas station in Kentucky. But then, boom, disaster. The Great Depression hits, and a new highway gets built that bypasses his diner completely. It just bankrupted his business, wiped him out. So you can see why, when he got that tiny Social Security check at 65, it wasn't just about that one moment. It was the crushing weight of a lifetime of failures piling on top of him. Honestly, he had every single reason in the world to believe his story was just over. And this is where everything changes. He's at rock bottom, and he sits down to take stock of his life. After everything he'd lost, what did he actually have left? And he realized he had one unique, really valuable thing. He didn't have money. He didn't have a business anymore, but he had this one thing, a killer recipe for fried chicken, you know the one, with his secret blend of 11 herbs and spices. And more than that, he had this unshakable, absolute belief that it was the best chicken anyone would ever taste. So with this newfound sense of purpose, he comes up with a plan. He wasn't gonna sell the chicken himself. No, he was gonna sell the recipe. He was gonna franchise it. And this idea, it kicked off one of the most grueling, soul-crushing sales missions you can possibly imagine. Okay, picture this. He's 65 years old, he gets into his beat-up old car and just starts driving. All across the country. He slept in the back seat because he didn't have money for a motel. He'd walk into restaurant after restaurant, decked out in that white suit that's so famous now, and he'd pitch his idea. And what happened? Most people just laughed him right out the door. All they saw was this old guy in a funny suit with a totally crazy idea. He was told no 1,009 times. Just let that sink in for a second. Over 1,000 doors slammed in his face. 1,000 people telling him that his one last valuable idea was completely worthless. I mean, come on, most of us would have given up after, 10 rejections? 20? Maybe? He got over 1,000. But Harlan Sanders, he just kept knocking, and eventually, a door finally opened. The 1,010th restaurant he walked into finally said yes. That one, single yes, after a whole sea of no's. And that was all it took. It changed everything. And from that one single agreement, the growth was just explosive. It's unbelievable. Within just a decade, by the time he was 74, there were over 600 Kentucky Fried Chicken locations across the US and Canada. And his image, the one people used to laugh at, it became a global symbol, a symbol of quality, comfort food, and, of course, just incredible perseverance. So, what's the big takeaway here? What can we learn from this absolutely insane journey from rock bottom to a global icon? Well, it all boils down to a really powerful idea about what it means to start over.
He actually said it best himself. It is never too late to start. Age is just a number, and failure is just a test to see if you have enough desire to achieve success. I mean, those are his own words, and they just perfectly capture his whole philosophy, right? His life is proof that our past failures, they absolutely do not have to define our future. Really, if there is one single thing you take away from this whole story, let it be this: persistence will eventually open a door. Success isn't about never failing. It's about outlasting the failure. It's about having the sheer grit to knock on that next door, and the next one, and the next one after that. And that kind of leaves us with a question, one for you to think about. What is the dream that you've almost given up on? What's that goal that just feels too far away right now? The story of Colonel Sanders is an amazing reminder that the very next door you knock on, it just might be the one. So what's yours?